Welcome to Story-Driven English. Today's story will challenge everything you think you know about happiness and belonging. Imagine this. You're a successful bank employee in America with a comfortable, predictable life. Then suddenly, during a solar eclipse, you're transported back in time to ancient China, 1,300 years in the past. No modern technology. No one speaks your language. You're completely alone in a world that considers you an alien. How would you survive? Would you desperately try to return home? Or would you discover something about yourself that you never knew was missing? This is Sarah Miller's extraordinary journey in Beyond the Eclipse, a tale of culture shock, adaptation, and finding profound meaning in the most unexpected circumstances. Before we begin this immersive English learning adventure, take a moment to subscribe to Story-Driven English. Click that subscribe button and notification bell now so you never miss our weekly stories designed to improve your English while transporting you to fascinating worlds and situations. Are you ready to travel back to Tang Dynasty China? Let's begin Sarah's incredible journey. Beyond the Eclipse. Sarah Miller stood in the break room of First National Bank, stirring her third cup of coffee that morning. The TV mounted on the wall showed a news report about the upcoming solar eclipse. First total eclipse visible from North America in 7 years, the anchor announced. Remember to use proper eye protection. Sarah checked her watch. She had 15 minutes before her next appointment. As assistant manager of business loans, her Monday schedule was always packed. 29 years old with a business degree and 5 years at the bank, Sarah had her career path neatly mapped out. She lived alone in a small but modern apartment, went to the gym 3 times a week, and called her parents every Sunday. Her life was organized, predictable, and, she had to admit, a little boring. "Are you going to watch the eclipse?" asked Mark from IT, refilling his coffee mug. "Maybe," Sarah replied. "I thought I might step outside for a minute when it happens." Her phone buzzed with a reminder. She gulped down her coffee and headed back to her office, the eclipse already forgotten as she prepared for her next meeting. Later that afternoon, the bank manager announced over the intercom that the eclipse would begin in 5 minutes. Clients and employees alike began moving toward the windows and doors. Sarah finished an email, grabbed her jacket, and decided to join them. Outside in the bank's parking lot, people were looking up at the sky through special glasses. Someone offered Sarah a pair, and she put them on. The sun was slowly disappearing, being eaten by a dark circle. A strange feeling came over her as the world grew darker. The birds stopped singing. The air felt different somehow, charged with an unusual energy. 2 minutes to totality, someone said. Sarah moved away from the crowd, walking toward a quieter spot near some trees at the edge of the parking lot. She felt drawn there, though she couldn't explain why. As darkness fell completely and people gasped at the sight of the corona, the sun's atmosphere visible as a glowing ring, Sarah felt dizzy. The ground seemed to shift beneath her feet. She closed her eyes and reached out to steady herself against a tree. When the dizziness passed and she opened her eyes, the tree was different. Thicker. Older. And the parking lot was gone. In its place was a dirt road lined with strange buildings with curved tile roofs. People in long flowing robes hurried past, many of them pointing at the sky where the eclipse was ending. But everything else had changed. The bank, the cars, the familiar street. All gone. Sarah spun around, her heart racing. "Hello," she called out. "What's happening?" A few people turned to look at her, their expressions confused or alarmed. A woman pulling a small child quickly crossed to the other side of the road. Sarah looked down at herself. Her navy blue suit and heels seemed outrageously out of place among the loose-fitting, simple clothes everyone else wore. Her short, practical haircut and makeup made her stand out even more. A man approached her, speaking in a language she didn't understand. His tone seemed questioning, concerned. She shook her head. "I don't understand. Do you speak English?" Sarah asked, knowing it was useless but not knowing what else to do. The man frowned and called to others. Soon a small crowd gathered, keeping their distance but staring and talking rapidly. Sarah recognized some of the sounds as Chinese, but an older form than anything she'd heard in modern Chinese restaurants or films. "Please," she said. "I need help. Where am I? What year is this?" The crowd parted as an older man in more elaborate robes approached. His beard was long and gray, and he carried himself with authority. He studied Sarah carefully, then spoke directly to her in the same incomprehensible language. When Sarah didn't respond, he tried another language, then another. Each time, Sarah shook her head, growing more desperate. The old man sighed and gestured for her to follow him. Not seeing any better option, Sarah went along, very aware of the stares following her. They walked through streets unlike any she had seen before. No concrete, no power lines, no traffic lights or signs. Just dirt roads, wooden buildings, and people engaged in activities that looked like they belonged in a historical movie. Women washing clothes by hand, men pulling carts, children playing with simple wooden toys. The old man led her to a large compound with a wooden gate. Inside was a garden surrounding a house that reminded Sarah of pictures she'd seen of traditional Chinese architecture. The old man spoke to a servant, who hurried away and returned with a woman. The woman was middle-aged with kind eyes. She bowed to the old man and then looked at Sarah with open curiosity. The old man spoke at length, often gesturing at Sarah and at the sky. The woman nodded, then smiled at Sarah and motioned for her to come inside the house. Sarah hesitated. She had no idea who these people were or what they wanted. But she was alone in a strange place with no obvious way back home. She needed shelter and help. Taking a deep breath, she followed the woman into the house. Inside, everything was simple but beautiful. Paper screens, wooden furniture, woven mats on the floor. The woman led Sarah to a small room and indicated she should sit on a cushion. She mimed eating and drinking, then left. Alone, Sarah finally broke down. Tears streamed down her face as the reality of her situation hit her. Somehow, impossibly, she had traveled through time. The eclipse, the strange energy she'd felt, somehow it had sent her here, to what she guessed was ancient China. "This can't be happening," she whispered to herself. "This isn't possible." But the wooden walls around her, the sounds and smells coming through the window, the absence of everything familiar, it was all too real to deny. The woman returned with a tray holding a pot, cups, and small dishes of food. She set it down and poured tea into a cup, offering it to Sarah with both hands. Sarah accepted it the same way, remembering this much from a Chinese business etiquette course she'd taken. "Thank you," she said. The woman pointed to herself. "Li Wei," she said clearly. Li Wei, Sarah repeated. I'm Sarah. She pointed to herself. Sarah, Li Wei said, smiling. For the next hour, they engaged in a simple language lesson. Li Wei pointed at objects and named them in her language, and Sarah repeated the words, then gave the English names. Li Wei was a quick learner, and Sarah had always had a good ear for languages. By the time they finished the tea and food, they had established a tiny shared vocabulary. That night, Sarah slept on a mat laid out for her, using strange-smelling blankets and a hard pillow. She dreamed of Excel spreadsheets, cell phones, and automatic coffee machines, the everyday things she had never thought to appreciate until they were gone. In the morning, Li Wei brought her new clothes, simple pants and a tunic that felt like rough cotton. Sarah's suit was taken away despite her protests. Li Wei made it clear through gestures that Sarah's clothes attracted too much attention. A younger woman came in and indicated she would help Sarah with her hair. Sarah sat still as her modern haircut was transformed with pins and small ornaments into something that would blend in better. When she looked at her reflection in a polished metal mirror, Sarah barely recognized herself. Without her makeup, in these plain clothes and with her hair arranged in this unfamiliar style, she looked like an extra in a historical drama. Li Wei nodded approvingly and led her outside. They walked through the compound to another building where the old man from yesterday was sitting with several other men. They were writing with brushes on paper or silk, making beautiful characters that Sarah couldn't read. The old man, who Sarah learned was called Master Chen, spoke to her through Li Wei's limited translation. Sarah gathered that he was a scholar who had studied different languages and peoples. He seemed to believe that Sarah had been sent by heaven during the eclipse, a messenger or a test of some kind. Sarah tried to explain that she was from the future, but the concept was impossible to convey with their limited shared vocabulary. Instead, she focused on learning as much of their language as she could, spending hours each day with Li Wei, mastering new words and phrases. Days turned into weeks. Sarah's knowledge of Tang Dynasty China, which she confirmed was where and when she was after learning the name of the current emperor, grew along with her language skills. Master Chen was a respected scholar in the capital city of Chang'an, now called Xi'an in Sarah's time. His household included family members, servants, and students who came to learn from him. Sarah's presence caused a stir at first, but Master Chen's authority kept her safe from too much unwanted attention. He explained to others that she was a visitor from a distant land, which was true enough. As her language skills improved, Sarah began to help around the household. Her organizational abilities and quick mind earned her respect, even if her background remained mysterious to everyone. Li Wei became a true friend, patient with Sarah's mistakes and genuinely interested in her strange ideas and knowledge. 1 month after her arrival, Master Chen called Sarah to his study. "You learn quickly," he said in his language, which Sarah now understood fairly well. "But you are still troubled." "I miss my home," Sarah admitted. "My family must be worried. And I don't know if I'll ever return." Master Chen stroked his beard thoughtfully. "The heavens brought you here during the darkening of the sun. Perhaps when the sun darkens again, you may return." "When will that be?" Sarah asked eagerly. "Such events are rare. The court astronomers predict nothing similar for many years." Sarah's heart sank. The Tang Dynasty lasted for nearly 300 years, from the 7th to the 10th century. The chance of another total solar eclipse visible from exactly this location during her lifetime was tiny. "What will happen to me?" she asked. "You may stay here as long as you wish," Master Chen said. "You have skills that are valuable. You understand numbers in ways that are unusual. Perhaps you could assist with the household accounts." Sarah nodded gratefully. Her banking background was finally useful for something here. "Thank you for your kindness. The heavens must have sent you for a purpose," Master Chen said. "In time, that purpose will become clear." Sarah wasn't so sure about divine purposes, but she was grateful for the shelter and acceptance. Still, each night she looked up at the stars, the same stars that shone over her own time, just arranged slightly differently due to the passage of centuries, and wondered if she would ever see her world again. As the seasons changed, Sarah adapted more to life in Tang Dynasty China. Her language skills became nearly fluent, though her accent marked her as foreign. She took over the household accounting, introducing more efficient methods that impressed Master Chen. She also began teaching Li Wei and some of the other household members about her world, carefully at first, then more openly as she gained their trust. She described airplanes, electricity, and computers in simple terms. Most thought she was telling imaginative stories, but Li Wei seemed to believe her. "Your world sounds wonderful and terrible at the same time," Li Wei said one evening as they sat in the garden. "So many marvels, but people still unhappy?" Sarah considered this. "We solve some problems and create new ones. We have medicine that can cure diseases that kill people here, but we pollute the air and water. We can talk to people across the world instantly, but sometimes we forget how to talk to the person right beside us." "And what about you? Were you happy there?" The question caught Sarah off guard. "I had a good job. A nice place to live. Enough money. But were you happy?" Li Wei persisted. Sarah looked up at the stars. "I was comfortable. I had plans, goals." "That's not the same as happiness," Li Wei said softly. Sarah was quiet for a long time. "No," she finally admitted. "It's not." 1 year after her arrival, Sarah had become an established part of Master Chen's household. Her Western accounting methods had helped the family business prosper, and she had even begun to learn calligraphy, though her characters were still clumsy compared to the elegant writing of Master Chen and his students. She still dreamed of home sometimes, but those dreams were becoming less frequent. What would be waiting for her if she did return? Her job would be long filled, her apartment rented to someone else. Her parents and friends would have mourned her mysterious disappearance. Would going back just reopen those wounds? And yet, she still felt like a visitor here. Despite her adapted clothing and improved language skills, she would always be an outsider. Children still sometimes followed her in the street, calling out, "Foreign devil," until their parents scolded them. And there were aspects of Tang Dynasty life that remained difficult. The lack of modern medicine, the limited roles for women, the hard physical labor required for tasks she had once done with the push of a button. One morning, a messenger arrived at the house, bringing news that changed everything. Emperor Xuanzong was hosting a special exhibition of foreign knowledge and talents. Representatives from various distant lands would demonstrate their unique skills and knowledge. Master Chen had been invited to bring any foreign visitors staying with his household. "This is a great honor," Master Chen told Sarah. The emperor has heard of the foreign woman with strange knowledge of numbers. He wishes to see you. Sarah felt a surge of panic. Me? Meet the emperor? But what would I say? What would I do? You will demonstrate your knowledge, Master Chen said calmly. Perhaps your methods of accounting, or some of the strange mathematics you have shown me. Sarah had taught Master Chen about the zero as a placeholder, the Arabic numeral system, which wouldn't reach China for several more centuries, and double-entry bookkeeping. These concepts, commonplace in her time, were revolutionary here. When would this happen? She asked. In 2 weeks' time. We must prepare. The next 2 weeks were a flurry of activity. Sarah was fitted for new, finer clothes. Li Wei coached her on proper court etiquette. How to bow, when to speak, how to address the emperor. Master Chen helped her prepare demonstrations of her mathematical knowledge that would be impressive but not so advanced as to seem like dangerous magic. The night before their departure for the palace, Sarah couldn't sleep. She paced in her small room, wondering how her life had taken such a strange turn. From processing business loans in a modern American bank to presenting before the Tang Emperor, it was beyond anything she could have imagined. Li Wei found her still awake at dawn. You haven't slept, she observed. I'm afraid, Sarah admitted. What if I make a mistake? What if they think I'm a witch or a demon? Li Wei took her hands. Master Chen will protect you. And you have a gift to share. The emperor values knowledge from distant lands. Sarah squeezed her friend's hands gratefully. I never thought I'd miss spreadsheet software so much, she joked, though Li Wei wouldn't understand the reference. That day, they traveled to the imperial palace in a procession of carriages. Sarah had seen parts of Chong'an over the past year, but nothing prepared her for the grandeur of the palace. The massive walls, the beautiful gardens, the imposing gates guarded by stern soldiers, it was overwhelming. Inside, the splendor only increased. Courtyards led to more courtyards. Buildings with red pillars and golden decorations stretched as far as she could see. Servants, officials, and nobles moved purposefully through the complex, everyone knowing their place in the intricate hierarchy of the court. Master Chen's party was led to a waiting area where other foreign visitors had gathered. Sarah saw people in turbans, others with dark skin and curly hair, some with features that suggested they came from the far west. All of them, like her, were curiosities. Representatives of the distant lands that paid tribute to the powerful Tang Empire. When finally they were brought before the emperor, Sarah followed Li Wei's careful coaching. She kept her eyes down, bowed deeply at the proper moment, and didn't speak until addressed directly. Emperor Xuanzong sat on an elevated throne, surrounded by officials and guards. He was younger than Sarah had expected, with intelligent eyes that studied each foreign visitor carefully. One by one, the visitors presented their unique knowledge or talents. A man from the West demonstrated glass-blowing techniques unknown in China. Another showed intricate metalwork methods. When Sarah's turn came, she stepped forward, heart pounding. The foreign woman from the land beyond the eastern seas, the court announcer proclaimed, with knowledge of strange mathematics. Sarah had prepared a demonstration involving calculation methods. She showed how to multiply large numbers quickly using the lattice method, then demonstrated double-entry bookkeeping using a simplified version of the Imperial Treasury's accounts. As she worked, explaining each step through a translator, She noticed the emperor leaning forward with interest. When she finished, there was a murmur among the court officials. The emperor spoke directly to her. "Your methods are unusual but effective," the translator conveyed. "Where did you learn such things?" Sarah had rehearsed her answer with Master Chen. "In my homeland, we have developed these techniques over many generations," she said, bowing again. "And where is this homeland?" the emperor asked. "Here." Sarah had to be careful. "A land far to the east, across the great ocean," she said. It wasn't exactly a lie. America was east of China if you went far enough around the globe. The emperor seemed satisfied with this vague answer. "Would you be willing to teach these methods to our court mathematicians and treasury officials?" Sarah looked at Master Chen, who nodded encouragingly. "It would be my honor, Your Majesty," she replied, bowing again. That night, back at Master Chen's compound, there was a celebration. The emperor's favor meant increased status for the entire household. Sarah was both excited and terrified by the prospect of teaching at the imperial court. "You did well," Master Chen told her. "The emperor is a man who values practical knowledge. Your strange methods interested him because they can strengthen his empire." "But what happens when I run out of strange methods to teach them?" Sarah asked. "I'm not a mathematician or a scientist. I'm just a bank employee who remembers some things from school." "You underestimate yourself," Master Chen said. "The knowledge you take for granted is valuable here. And by the time you have taught all you know, you will have learned much from us as well." Sarah thought about this. It was true that she had already learned so much, not just language and culture, but a different way of seeing the world. The Tang Dynasty, for all its limitations by modern standards, was one of the most advanced civilizations of its time. Poetry, art, science, trade, all flourished during this period. There was much she could learn even as she taught. In the following months, Sarah began regular visits to the palace to teach her mathematical methods to court officials. It was challenging work, explaining concepts that seemed basic to her but were revolutionary to them, and doing it all in a language she had learned as an adult. But it was also deeply satisfying to see the light of understanding in her students' eyes when they grasped a new concept. Between her teaching sessions, she was allowed to explore parts of the palace, always accompanied by Li Wei or another companion from Master Chen's household. She saw gardens more beautiful than any modern park, watched court musicians perform on instruments she'd never seen before, and observed craftspeople creating works of art using techniques that would be lost to time. One day, almost 2 years after her arrival in Tang, China, Sarah was in the palace library with one of the court astronomers, discussing calendars. Her modern knowledge of the solar system was limited, but still more accurate than the current understanding. The astronomer was showing her star charts when a servant rushed in. "The emperor requests your presence," the servant said, bowing to Sarah. "Immediately." Startled, Sarah followed the servant through the palace to a part she had never entered before, the emperor's private quarters. Li Wei hurried alongside her, looking worried. "What could he want?" Sarah whispered. "I don't know," Li Wei replied. "But remember your etiquette. And be honest, the emperor values truth above flattery." They were led into a beautifully appointed room where Emperor Xuanzong sat with just a few attendants. He dismissed everyone except Sarah, Li Wei, and 2 of his most trusted advisors. "Foreign teacher," he addressed Sarah, using the title he had given her. I have a question of great importance. Sarah bowed. I will answer truthfully if I can, Your Majesty. My astronomers report that in 3 days' time, the sun will again be darkened, the Emperor said. Not completely, as it was when you arrived, but significantly. They say such an event is a heavenly sign. What does it mean in your land? Sarah's heart raced. A solar eclipse, perhaps her chance to return home. But did she want to? 2 years ago, the answer would have been an immediate yes. Now she wasn't so sure. In my land, she said carefully, we believe such events are natural movements of the heavenly bodies, following patterns that can be predicted. We do not see them as specific signs or omens. The Emperor frowned slightly. Yet you arrived during such an event. Was that mere coincidence? Sarah hesitated. I cannot explain my arrival, Your Majesty. But in my understanding, the darkening of the sun occurs when the moon passes between the earth and the sun, casting its shadow upon us. One of the advisors looked skeptical. The moon is smaller than the sun. How could it block the sun's light? The moon is indeed smaller, Sarah agreed, but it is much closer to us than the sun. Hold your thumb before your eye, and you can block your view of a mountain, though your thumb is tiny and the mountain is vast. The Emperor seemed intrigued by this explanation. And you believe this coming darkness might affect you as the last one did? Sarah took a deep breath. It is possible, Your Majesty. I do not know what brought me here, so I cannot know what might take me away, or send me home. And do you wish to return home? The Emperor asked, his gaze sharp and assessing. It was the question Sarah had been asking herself for months. I am honored by your favor, Your Majesty, and by the kindness of Master Chen's household. I have found friendship and purpose here that I did not expect. She glanced at Li Wei, whose eyes were filled with emotion. But I also have family in my homeland who must think me dead. I have knowledge and skills that could be more fully used there. The Emperor nodded slowly. Then you must prepare for the possibility. If the heavens brought you here for a purpose, perhaps that purpose will be fulfilled with the next darkening of the sun. The next 3 days were a whirlwind of activity and emotion for Sarah. She gathered her few possessions, the original clothes she had arrived in, which Li Wei had preserved, some simple gifts she had received, and a journal where she had recorded her experiences. She wrote letters to Master Chen, Li Wei, and others who had become important to her, knowing they might be the only remembrance she left behind. On the day of the eclipse, Sarah returned to the spot where she had first appeared in Tang, China. She wore her original clothes, now looking strange and out of place to her own eyes. Li Wei and Master Chen accompanied her, along with 2 court astronomers sent by the Emperor. The darkness will not be complete, one of the astronomers explained. But it will be significant. If I disappear, Sarah told Master Chen and Li Wei, please know how grateful I am for all you've done for me. You saved my life and gave me a home when I was lost. Li Wei was crying openly. I will miss you every day, sister of my heart, she said, using the term of endearment she had adopted for Sarah. Your strange knowledge has brought benefits to many, Master Chen said, his voice rough with emotion. Perhaps that was indeed your purpose here. As the eclipse began, Sarah stood alone in the exact spot where she had arrived. She felt the same strange energy in the air, the same dizziness. The world seemed to shimmer around her as the sunlight dimmed. In that moment, Sarah made her choice. She stepped deliberately away from the spot, moving to stand beside Li Wei. The shadow passed over them. The birds went quiet. The strange energy built to a peak, and then began to fade as the eclipse passed its maximum coverage. Sarah remained exactly where she was, holding Li Wei's hand. "You stayed," Li Wei whispered when it became clear that the moment had passed. "You chose to stay." Sarah smiled through her tears. "I realized something. In my old life, I was always planning for the future, never fully living in the present. I had security but not fulfillment. Here, despite all the hardships and differences, I found something I didn't have before." "What is that?" Master Chen asked. "Purpose. Connection. The chance to make a real difference," Sarah replied. "In my time, I was one of thousands of bank employees, easily replaced. Here, my knowledge, even the small amount I possess, can help people. And I've found a family in all of you." The astronomers were recording their observations, paying little attention to the emotional scene beside them. The eclipse continued to wane, the sun emerging fully once more. As they walked back to the city, Sarah felt a profound sense of peace. She would never stop missing certain aspects of her modern life: hot showers, antibiotics, ice cream. She would always wonder about her parents and friends, hoping they had somehow found closure after her disappearance. But she had made her choice with open eyes. In the years that followed, Sarah continued to teach at the imperial court while also helping Master Chen's household prosper. She introduced concepts from modern finance, agriculture, and medicine, carefully chosen to be helpful without seeming like impossible magic. She learned traditional Chinese medicine, poetry, and philosophy in return, finding wisdom that had been lost or overlooked in her own time. She never married, choosing instead to devote herself to teaching and to her adopted family. The emperor eventually granted her an official position as a foreign advisor, unusual for a woman but accepted because of her strange origins and valuable knowledge. Sometimes, on clear nights, Sarah would still look up at the stars and think about the modern world she had left behind. But she no longer felt like a visitor in Tang Dynasty China. This was her home now, these people her family. The strange twist of fate that had brought her here had given her something she'd never expected to find. Not just a life, but a life with meaning. And in the busy streets of Chang'an, among the scholars, merchants, and ordinary people going about their daily lives, Sarah Miller, once an assistant manager at First National Bank and now a respected teacher in the court of Emperor Xuanzong, had found where she truly belonged. Key vocabulary, repeated throughout. 1. Eclipse. When one celestial body passes into the shadow of another. 2. Dynasty. A line of rulers from the same family. 3. Scholar. A person who studies and has extensive knowledge. 4. Emperor. The ruler of an empire. 5. Compound. An enclosed area containing buildings. 6. Etiquette. The customary code of polite behavior. 7. Astronomers. Scientists who study celestial objects and phenomena. 8. Calculations. Mathematical determinations by formal reckoning. 9. Treasury. A place where money or valuables are kept. 10. Purpose. The reason for which something exists or is done. 11. Knowledge. Information and skills acquired through experience or education. 12. Civilization, the stage of human social and cultural development. 13. Techniques, a way of carrying out a particular task. 14. Foreign, from a country or culture other than one's own. 15. Methods, a particular procedure for accomplishing something. 16. Officials, persons holding office or position of authority. 17. Demonstrate, to show or explain how something works. 18. Palace, the official residence of a sovereign or high dignitary. 19. Prosperity, the state of being successful or thriving. 20. Adapt, to adjust to new conditions or circumstances. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Beyond the Eclipse here on Story Driven English. We hope Sarah's journey from a modern bank employee to an honored advisor in Tang Dynasty China has both entertained and helped you improve your English skills. What would you do if you found yourself in Sarah's position? Would you try to return to your modern life or choose to stay in the past? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story, please give this video a thumbs up and share it with friends who are also learning English. Each like and share helps our channel reach more English learners around the world. Don't forget to subscribe to Story Driven English for more engaging stories that will enhance your vocabulary, listening comprehension, and overall English fluency. Click the notification bell to be alerted when we upload new stories every week. Until next time, keep practicing your English, and remember, sometimes the most meaningful journeys take us to places we never expected to go. See you in our next story adventure.